Long time ago, in the village of Nyadump, there lived a boy named Olam. He was thin, quiet, and thoughtful, unlike the other boys, who were strong, loud, and eager to prove their worth, while they wrestled and hunted. Olam preferred to sit beneath the great baobab tree, listening to the elders' stories and studying the movements of the animals. The villagers mocked him endlessly. "A man must be strong like the lion, not quiet like the wind," they jeered. "What kind of warrior does not fight?" asked the hunters. Even his own father, a respected warrior, shook his head in disappointment. "I have no son," he would say, "only a boy who fears battle." Olam's heart ached, but he did not argue. He only watched and listened, waiting for the right time to prove them wrong. The fateful night. One evening, after an especially cruel round of humiliation, Olam walked alone to the riverbank. There, he wept softly under the moonlight. But then he heard a voice, ancient and wise, whispering through wind. The river carved stone not with strength, but patience. Startled, Olam turned to see an old woman, wrapped in a cloak made of woven stars. Her eyes held the weight of countless lifetimes. "Why do you cry, child?" she asked. Olam told her his sorrow, and she nodded slowly. "If you wish to change your fate, walk into the forest of spirits. There you'll find the path meant for you." The forest of spirits was feared by all. No man who entered ever returned. But Olam, with nothing left to lose, stepped into the darkness without hesitation. 3. The lost years in the wild. For 15 years, Olam was never seen again. The villagers whispered that he had been devoured by spirits, that his bones lay beneath the ancient trees. But Olam was not dead. Deep in the forest, he met the guardians of the forgotten, spirits of great warriors and wise leaders, long past but never gone. They saw something in him that others had not. Strength is not only in muscle, but in the mind, they told him. Power is not only in the spear, but in patience. Under their guidance, Olam trained in the ways of war, leadership, and survival. He learned to hear the language of the wind, track the movements of stars, and move with the silence of shadows. He tamed the beasts of the wild and grew into a man of great strength and wisdom. 4. The fall of Nyadump. Meanwhile, back in Nyadump, darkness had fallen. A ruthless warlord, Jabari the Cruel, had invaded, burning fields, enslaving people, and declaring himself king. The proud warriors of the village, once full of laughter and arrogance, were now broken and enslaved. The elders, filled with regret, whispered among themselves, "If only Olam were here, but we cast him away." The return of the forgotten son. One evening, as the sun set in blood-red streaks, a tall, cloaked figure walked toward the village gates. His frame was powerful, his stance that of a lion, but his eyes held the patience of the river. The guards laughed. Another fool come to beg before Jabari? But when the stranger spoke, the air seemed to still. "I am Olam, son of Nyadump." The news spread like wildfire. The boy they had mocked had returned, not as a beggar, but as a warrior king. 6. The Battle of Nyadump. That night, Olam stood before his broken people and spoke. "You were not born slaves," he said. "You are the children of warriors, of kings. Rise, and we shall reclaim what is ours." Hope flickered in their eyes. With Olam leading them, they took up their spears, their bows, their stones, and prepared for war. Under the light of a full moon, the battle began. Crossed swords, Olam commanded the winds to raise dust, blinding the enemy. Fire he used to land itself as a weapon, setting traps in the fields. Eagle he fought like a spirit, moving faster than any man, striking with the force of the ancestors. Jabari, realizing he was losing, stepped forward to challenge Olam one-on-one. He was a giant of a man, covered in scars, his spear sharp as lightning. The duel was fierce. Jabari struck like a beast, but Olam moved like the wind. And then, with a single, swift movement, Olam disarmed Jabari and struck him down. By dawn, the warlord was no more. Nyadump was free. 7. The crown of the once mocked. As the sun rose, the villagers knelt before Olam, tears in their eyes. The elders came forward, carrying the crown of the ancestors. "You left as a boy we scorned," they said, "but you have returned as the greatest king Nyadump has ever known." With humility and strength, Olam took the crown. But before placing it on his head, he spoke, "Never again shall we mock those who are different. For strength takes many forms, and the river, though soft, carves the hardest stone." And so, the boy once ridiculed became the wise and mighty King Olam. Under his rule, Nyandum thrived. Never again did they judge a child for being different, for they had learned that the quiet ones, the patient ones, may hold the power of generations. 8. The legacy of King Olam. Years later, under King Olam's reign, Nyandum became a land of wisdom, strength, and peace. Songs were sung of the boy who returned as a king, and every child grew up knowing his name. And so, his story was passed down for generations, whispered under the shade of the great baobab tree, where once, long ago, a quiet boy had sat, listening to the wind. Moral of the story: fire do not mock the quiet ones, for they may hold the wisdom of kings. Fire true power is not in strength alone, but in patience, wisdom, and resilience. Fire even those cast away can rise to lead nations.